Welcome to Marketing with Purpose. My name is Monica Pitts. I'm the owner of Make Create Design and the tech lady who solves communication challenges through technology. I am super excited to share this success story with you. It's like the perfect illustration of the 5 P's that my dad is so very fond of. Prior planning prevents poor performance. He actually has a 6th P, which I will not tell you what it is right now because it's really not quite appropriate. Anyway, so I was on the phone the other day with Chris Campbell, who is the executive director of the Boone County History and Culture Center. And we talk pretty regularly because they're my clients and we do social media for them, some print work, and help them with their website. And he's also working on a marketing plan right now, and I'm working on a course to help people with their marketing plan. So I think that he teaches me as much as I teach him right now about what my future students might need. Now, he mentioned that their recently completed fundraiser raised $41,000 in a day. And I thought, whoa, and how did you do that? So he said that a rock star board member, a newer board member actually, her name is Jessie Yankee, came up with the idea. She said, let's do a phone bank. Now, I'm sure that you're saying, well, how do you even do that? Isn't that everybody in a room calling people? And the answer is yes. They had some people in their facility calling people because they have a big facility. And then they also had people calling virtually. So they had kind of a mixed bag of people working. And then also Mary Ellen, he was raving about Mary Ellen because she was the lucky lady who got to help he and Jessie bring this fundraiser to life by doing a large share of the legwork to make sure that their volunteers had everything that they needed to make this day a huge success. Now, I thought to myself, I've got to talk to Mary Ellen because I know that so many of you have that same responsibility, doing the legwork to make sure that your campaign is a success. And I love what Mary Ellen had to say. I love her attitude. She said that her mom told her that whenever you ask a friend or a volunteer to do something for you, your job is to make their job as easy as possible. And she did just that for her volunteers. Now, by sharing this success story with you, I am in no way saying that you have to do a phone bank. I want you, as you listen to this, to think beyond the activity that they did. Phone calls are a great way to solicit for donations. However, there are so many other types of fundraisers and campaigns that you can apply the things that Mary Ellen did to make this campaign a success towards. So I want you to think, how can I use these same strategies that she used to support her volunteers and the people who are making calls for them? And I want you to think, how can I use this approach and apply it to a peer-to-peer fundraiser perhaps? How can you, just like Mary Ellen, think through all the things that those people really needed and deliver it to them so that you can help them help you find success? And I also want you to think about the energy factor, because Mary Ellen said that being together and doing these phone calls in the same place really impacted the outcome of the activity. She felt like because they were together, there was just so much more energy. Now, how can you think through ways that you can bring that same energy into every fundraiser that you do with your volunteers? For example, could you come together on Giving Tuesday, maybe virtually? How do you make that look? How do you create that same energy? Those are the things I want you to think about as you're listening to all of the amazingness that Mary Ellen is going to tell us. Now, with all that food for thought, let's see what Mary Ellen has to say. You're on a mission, and you just need more people to know about it. And whether you're brand new to marketing or a seasoned pro, we are all looking for answers to make marketing decisions with purpose. I'm Monica Pitts, a techie, crafty business owner, mom, and aerial dancer who solves communication challenges through technology. This podcast is all about digging in and going digital. I'll share my marketing know-how and business experience from almost 20 years of misadventures. I'll be your backup dancer so you can stop doubting and get moving towards marketing with purpose. I just have one public service announcement to make before we get to the good stuff today. And you might not like it when I say this, but you know that the secret to a successful year-end giving campaign is to start planning right now. Don't give up and let 2020 get the best of you. The biggest giving month is yet to come. You know that 26% of all the donations placed in 2019 on classy.org happened between Giving Tuesday and December 31st. So don't let those supercharged 31 days go to waste. Download my year-end campaign planning checklist at makecreate.com/checklist. It outlines your monthly must-do activities from September to January with simple, straightforward tasks to guide your planning activities and discussions to get you rolling towards a successful year-end giving campaign. Check it out at makecreate.com/checklist. And with that out of the way, I can't wait to introduce you to my guest. Thank you, Mary Ellen, for coming together with me today to share your fundraising success story. I can't wait to hear how it all came together. I thought that we would kind of kick off this conversation by having you tell me a little bit about the Boone County History and Culture Center and like how you came to be there.
Sure. The Boone County History and Culture Center, a lot of people still know us as the Boone County Historical Society, which really we're one and the same, Our members are members of the Historical Society, and the History and Culture Center is the home for everything that happens out here. But we really feel like we do more than just a historical society. We've got this awesome historic home, an entire village that represents 200 years of Boone County history. We have exhibits, we have an art gallery. So we needed a name that was more encompassing of what we do. So that's really, we're both. And a lot of people call us Red Roof too, because we're out here, south of town with a giant red roof you can see from 63. So if you haven't been to Red Roof, please come visit. We are open to the public a little bit. So please come visit. And I do know that, there's a lot going on, but we're still trying to serve the community the best way we can.
Mm-hmm. So how did you end up at the Boone County? Well, I'm going to do it because I started working with you guys when it was Boone County Historical Society, always only, and like you guys had a really long name for your building, and so we didn't ever say it.
Yeah.
So if I call it both, forgive me, but how did you come to be there, and what's your role?
Sure. Me personally, I've been in nonprofits for about a decade, and I've been back in Missouri about 8 years, and I spent about 6 of that with the State Historical Society, close to campus and in the heart of Columbia. And I was in marketing, doing strategic communications, design, all that kind of stuff. And I really love, history and art and doing something that matters. So I was looking for a part-time position where I still was having some kind of impact, but had a little more balance with my family because I have 2 small kids. So this was the perfect fit that I got to stay in my field, really care about what I'm doing, and have more time at home too.
That's awesome. I'm glad you found that balance. That's exciting.
Yeah, it's so hard.
I wish that for everybody, really. That's amazing. My mom told me that I needed to start my business when I was young because there was no time like the present to be hungry, and that I would want this flexibility when I was older and had a family.
Yeah.
Right. She's totally right.
Moms know a lot. Who knew, right?
Yeah. If you're listening, thanks, Mom. So you guys recently did a fundraiser, and I heard through the grapevine, through Chris, your executive director, that it was pretty darn successful. So why don't you tell me a little bit about the fundraiser? What did you guys do?
Sure. It actually all started at the board level, which is great to have an active board that does work and cares about you having enough revenue is a blessing. And specifically with Jessie Yankee, who is the chair of our membership committee. She kept saying online fundraiser. And I was like, yeah. Is she actually going to have the time to do this? She runs a business. She's a mom. She's incredible. But it really was this blend of online, really pushing people to donate through Facebook, talking about it on Facebook Lives, all that kind of stuff, but also kind of a United Way model with a phone bank. Um, and we weren't entirely sure how that was going to go with social distance.
Mm-hmm.
But luckily, we do have a large footprint here. We have an art gallery that we rent out that's huge. So we were able to have different spaces for people to actually come in and make phone calls, because it's really hard to replace that excitement of being in the same room as other people while you're doing this. We definitely had people calling from home too, which we were so thankful for, and that they could do it where they felt safe and where they had the technology they needed.
Yeah.
Um, but it was so nice to be able to have people come in and really feed off of each other, and keep your energy going throughout a 4-hour period.
Yeah, I could see that excitement level being awesome.
Yes. And it's the first real phone bank kind of thing that I've been a part of. So I wasn't sure how that was going to go, but it really is kind of contagious. It just keeps going, and helps you make that next phone call.
And so you guys, you just said you haven't, this is not something that you do every year. It's a new thing for your organization. So what made you decide to do something different?
Sure. I mean, I think all of us have been hit by COVID, of course. Whether you're profit, nonprofit, we are all having a hard time figuring out how to bring in the revenue that we were expecting.
Mhm.
And we started out the year a little bit down, because our first quarter is always the hardest. We don't have as many people coming in from out of town, coming through the center, all that kind of stuff. Uh, Concerts get canceled because of weather, all kinds of things happen. So we really needed some more revenue. And Jesse just kept saying, I think we can do this. We can do this. And we chose to do matching funds,
Mhm.
because it's just such a good, communication tool. It doubles your money. You get some of the stuff, you've already got commitments before you even start making phone calls.
Mhm.
Um, and I remember thinking like, oh, we'll get a couple $1,000s, like, oh, maybe the board will have time to make calls. And it was amazing. They secured what our original goal was before we even started. So we just doubled up on our goal.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how much did you guys make?
We are at $41,000 right now.
Woo! Like
I know.
that's so
Like what?
great. That is so awesome.
Yes.
That means a lot to you guys because you guys do not have an enormous operating budget.
No, that's huge. And I mean, when people are struggling and losing jobs and, stock market's down, all of that kind of stuff, it's amazing to have the community come out and really support you that well is incredible.
Yes. So did you help ask people who were making the calls, or like how did you guys choose who you were going to have make the calls? How did you pick those individuals?
Sure. Our board is very active. Like I said, I've been in nonprofits for 10 years, and I've had board members that never show up, board members that only come to the ones that are in their backyard, but this board really does work. Of course, we have some people that are busier and don't have the time, but they are willing to jump in when something needs to be done. So Jesse crafted a message and asked our executive director, Chris Campbell, to send it out to the rest of the board, asking for them to help. And they responded. I mean, I don't know exactly how many people, probably about 12 of them were making phone calls. One thing you always do have to think about is the people that don't sign up but are going to show up. So
Mhm.
have extra list, always have
Mhm.
extra list. And then there were a few people that wanted to make phone calls from home but didn't tell us. And that was the biggest hiccup, was we can't send you a list at home if we don't know that you want it. So make sure that you're communicating with your volunteer base,
Mhm.
so that you don't have any of those surprises, because you might have more people willing to help than you realize.
I love your guys' strategy of, Jesse crafted the message. So the person who's the best person at writing and making the ask crafts the message, and then you give it to the person who will be most likely to get the answer that you want, which is Chris, you know, and then he emails it out. That's really smart. And I want people to take note of that, because this is a great strategy to get people to do stuff.
Yeah. And think about who they're used to opening emails from. Jesse's been on our board for a year, so they don't all know her, and they don't know her email address. But they get emails from Chris all the time, and they're very comfortable with talking with him. So it wasn't unexpected for him to send them a message.
Yeah.
And Jesse's might have gotten buried.
And she took the heavy lifting off of his shoulders by giving him the resources that he needed to, you know, ask them to do it. And that is
definitely
key. You guys are killing it over there. So okay, I want to take a step back for just a second, because I know you told me, and I understood beforehand, that like Jesse came up with this idea, right? But, and I think that this happens a lot, like the board or the executive director comes up with an idea, and then it gets delegated out to a committee or another board member or a staff member or a volunteer to enact this idea. So when they came to you with this idea, what was like your initial reaction? Were you like, yes, this is awesome? Or were you like, phones, peer-to-peer,
yes.
like, what are we doing?
Definitely. Like I said, I've been a part of a lot of crazy ideas that never come off. So that's why I think I tempered my expectations about what was going to happen. And then in the midst of all of this, my colleague, who's been amazing at helping us onboard a new cloud-based constituent management system, she took a full-time job elsewhere.
Oh no.
And I was like, oh no, I'm gonna die, you know, because she's been the point person on all of this, and I wasn't sure I was comfortable making this happen. And then we had like less than a month to do it. So I may have in some ways spent a little more time than it actually took, because I just wanted to make sure that it went well. And I come from probably the old school. My mom taught me, you know, if you have a volunteer coming in to help you, you have a friend coming to help you, you do everything you can to make it successful for them. So I spent as much time probably thinking through what I thought the volunteers might want or need as I did actually doing it and filling the resources.
That is what makes a successful event happen, or a successful anything happen, really. It's like the prior planning, right?
Yes.
So take me through your steps. Like, what were the things that you thought about that you thought they would need?
Sure. So I was kind of thinking about myself, like, I'm okay making cold calls. I don't love it. So what do you need to be most comfortable to call someone that you don't know or that you barely know? You know, you need to have their right information, hopefully know if this is, you know, someone who is already a part of your organization and knows who you are. You need to know maybe the last gift that they gave you, the last donation they made. And then if that was for something specific, you know, like, do they support our Hall of Fame gala that we have every year? Or do they just send in a check at the end of the year because they want their tax donation, which is all lovely. We will take all of those donations no matter what. And we're proud to work with what we have. But I really wanted to give them what they might need for that, because if someone gave us a gift 2 months ago, it's a very different conversation than someone who sent something in December, who sent us a check before the world blew up.
Yeah, you're right. So you gave them the things that they needed to make sure that they had a conversation that was not inconsiderate, I would say.
Yes. And then I tried to think about where I thought our best contact information was. Because like I said, we're onboarding this new cloud-based software, which is always a process. And I'm very good at putting information into that system, but I wasn't sure I was going to be able to pull out everything in exactly the way that I wanted it to be. So I went back to some of our old spreadsheets to just glean what I could from there and see how all of that was organized. And then I actually took that and pulled information from our cloud system into an Excel that was just kind of a giant Excel, because I needed something that I knew I could pull off quickly, but that I thought had the best contact information possible.
And as you guys are moving into that cloud-based system, do you think in the future it'll be something that you can kind of like export out of it? Or do you think it's always going to be like a manual kind of reconciliation?
Both. um, there was so much information in our cloud because of the work of my colleague over the last 6 months or so. That was the best way to get historical data for us at this point, because I've only been here about a year and a half, and we've been using the cloud about 2 years or so. And so a lot of that information was very good, but we don't have as many contacts in that system as we wanted to be able to target. And then one thing that was hard was we wanted to get new members that day too. And that's when you, I think, have to rely on your board a lot more and the volunteers coming in, because if I have their contact information, they already have a relationship with us somehow. So that's one thing I think you can push your volunteers a little bit to help you bring in new people. And then try to think about things like PayPal or other systems that might be gleaning contact information that you forgot to go back to.
So for the new members, then, did you ask them to come with like a list of people that they might talk to? And then they were kind of responsible for those conversations.
Yes. So I think Jesse asked each of them to think about at least 5 people that they could target for new memberships or, just a new donation of some sort.
Well, that seems really doable. I like that you kept it really like manageable. And did you guys give them like a script for their phone calls or anything like that? Or was it just kind of like off the cuff?
Sure. We did a little bit of scripting. And then I actually chose to sort our targets by focus. Because I thought, again, I was going back to like, what would I want as the person calling? And I thought it would be easier to say the same thing 10 times versus having to look at every contact and think about what conversation you're going to have. So let me show you my little spreadsheets. There's actually a green column that says giving day focus. And like, that was the one thing that I wanted them to look at. Because that was my little tool of, even if this is somebody who didn't sign up, who comes in and doesn't get any of the pre-information about what they're supposed to be doing, they could look at that column that says focus and hopefully be able to have a conversation based off of that little segment of information.
Well, that's really smart too, though, because your focus is like, it's the segment. People talk about segmenting your email list all the time, at least in my marketing world, they do. And it does make sense that you're segmenting your donor list to make sure that you're having the right conversation with the right person, because the right conversation is much more likely to yield the result that you want than something else, because then they don't feel like you know them. Like, sure. It's not any fun when people don't feel like they know you.
Yeah. And then it was great because, the people that came to the Hall of Fame Gala last year, I gave them to the people that helped plan the gala.
Yay, that was smart.
Yeah. So if they had questions, they could, more likely answer them. And just there's a chance they might have met while they were there. I don't know. So I did try to do that. Luckily, when we had a membership drive last year, I did save a lot of referred by kind of information so that, if John Doe invited Gary Smith to be a part of this organization, then John Doe was the person that called Gary and said, "Hey, you're past due. You're in your grace period. Would you like to renew today and get matching funds?" Yay.
Yay.
Yes.
Of course I would.
Yes.
Well, this was like multi-level. I love it. You really thought through it, it sounds like. And that's awesome. Because one of my questions was like, how did you pick who is going to call who? And it sounds like you looked at all the data that you had and just tried to make the right decision for which person was going to have the best outcome with the conversation.
Yeah. And then the people that I didn't know what to do or they didn't have a strong target, I just grouped by focus, like we talked about, or by their segment. And in some cases, I gave the more challenging like conversations to people that I knew would be better at those or more comfortable talking on the cuff.
Mhm.
So they were sorted by, like concert attendees who were not members, who hadn't made a donation in 2020 or 2019, but those were the best targets to have those membership conversations with.
Mhm.
Uh, so those are the ones that are, like I said, harder because you don't have the contact information. But think about event registrations, think about PayPal, think about your email list that they may have actually included a phone number to, and see what you can pull together from those kinds of things. And then know that things are going to be wrong,
They
right?
are.
That's one thing that Chris said in one of our planning meetings that I so appreciated was, like we can prepare and we can do the best that we can, and we're still going to end up having wrong phone numbers. We're still going to call someone who's deceased. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it just happens. And so I think prepping your volunteers for that too, that was huge. And it made me feel a lot better about this data that I've inherited and have tried to keep continually cleaning because it's a process for everyone.
Mhm.
Um, it's okay. It's not going to be perfect.
Did you give them like tools to handle objections then? So like using your deceased example, like
Mhm.
if you call someone and it turns out that the person you're asking for is deceased, did you tell them, like give them an example of what to say that might be a graceful way to continue the conversation or end it? I mean, either one is good.
Yeah. No, we did not. That would be the
Okay.
next level of support. That would be really good. I also think that you need to think about how to get data back from your volunteers.
Mhm.
I know everyone struggles with the post-event letdown,
Mhm.
and I still have lists sitting around that I don't want to lose.
Yeah.
But how do you track that information and make sure it goes back into your system? So almost you need like a volunteer that you trust or set aside some time after the event to make sure you're not losing any of that information, especially the deceased people. My goodness, you got to make sure that's taken care of.
Well, so you put it together in a spreadsheet then, and did you
Mhm.
deliver it to them in a spreadsheet and they could still make notes in there, or it was
Most of our people are hard copy people.
okay?
Um, yeah, and we did have people at home, so we sent PDFs to those folks.
Mhm.
And then there were a few columns in the giant spreadsheet that we chose not to give to the people making phone calls, like kind of the lifetime history. I wanted that, and our executive director wanted that. And we shared it with a few of the planning people, but not everyone making phone calls needs to know that.
Mhm.
So we chose to do it that way. And I honestly just kind of split up the giant spreadsheet and made smaller, like I said, PDFs that were printable for everyone. But
Mhm.
that way I know who was supposed to be calling who as well.
One trick that we use a lot is so we put things into Google Sheets. And then you can hide columns. And then if you select the rows and the columns that you want to print, you can just print the selected area, which is
Yes.
magical because then you don't have to make like 14 spreadsheets or whatever to share.
Yes.
Because as soon as I do that, somewhere, some piece of information is going to change, and then I'm going to have to go change it in like 3 places. It's
That is very true.
really painful.
Very true.
It's like back in the day when we used to build websites that didn't have databases. Nasty, because you'd put an event up and the event would be featured on the homepage. And then you'd have
Hmm.
to go back over to the homepage and change the information about the event on the homepage. And sometimes you would just forget. And that's what I feel like it's like when you have so many documents that you're trying to manage for other people.
Definitely.
So, from the feedback of your volunteers, if they gave you feedback, did anybody say that some information was more valuable than others, or that there's things that they would do differently about the event in the future?
So far, not really. I think I definitely assigned too many phone calls to like my big people that were championing the event.
Uh-huh.
Jesse probably shouldn't have had any calls. And I gave her a big list. You know, it's hard to know how many they can get through in an hour.
Yeah.
Uh, a lot of people I did about, 30 calls for or whatever. And some of them stuck through it and got through all of them. Some of them said, I have to finish my list this weekend because I didn't get through everything. But a lot of them really did take their list home and continue to reach out to those people, which was just phenomenal. Um, we would have never been able to connect with that many people, in, I don't even know, a month, 6 weeks without the help of all of these people making phone calls. And we did target a few, like low hanging fruit, people in their grace period, like I said,
Mm-hmm.
people that are going to be up for renewal here in September. But you just got to do the work. And it was amazing to have all those people come in and help us do the work.
How many people did you guys end up being able to contact then? Do you know?
I don't know.
Thousands or hundreds?
I would say hundreds.
Yeah. Hey, that's
Yes.
a lot.
Yes. Well, and like even mine, I think I pulled out about 12 people that I wanted to call, who I've worked with here, or I knew like you should be a member, but they're not. And I think I only had time to make 3 phone calls.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so that's
Yeah.
another thing. You got to think of this like a big gala, and your point people probably shouldn't have assignments
Yeah.
because they're going to get pulled in 1,000 directions, and they're not going to have time to do the phone calls themselves.
Because the point people are there to support the other people.
Yes.
Like they're the people that are going to make sure it's successful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which for some reason, even though I knew this is a big day, I didn't think of it as an event. Like an event, I always have the point person not have a role. But for some reason, that did not cross my mind at all.
It makes sense. I mean, like
Yeah.
when we do an event, Stacy's always the person that is gonna like she's gonna be in the recording room before me. She's setting everything up. She's doing all the tech. Like I'm not touching it at all, which is amazing because before, this is something I had to do too. And there's nothing more flustering than being the presenter and then not having your technology working like, even 15 or 20 minutes before it starts. And then you have to get up and talk in front of people
Mm-hmm.
and be
Yep.
like calm and functional when you've just been completely stressed out.
Oh yeah.
It's hard to like transition into it,
Oh
when that
yeah.
happens. So I'm really lucky to have her help me out with that for sure. So anything you feel like you want to add for people, either for managing the people that are helping them doing their fundraisers, asking those people, anything like that? I mean, really, the way that I'm thinking about your campaign in relativity to like a year-end peer giving campaign is that you guys brought in your volunteers to do your asking for you and you equipped them with all this information to make it successful. And I think there's just so much to be learned from all of the amazing planning that you did. So that's kind of where I was like had my head wrapped around here. So that's a very long intro to me just saying, is there any like last piece of advice that you would like to give to these other small nonprofits that are going to try to endeavor into this big giving push at the end of the year?
Sure. I'm trying to think how to summarize everything. I think that what we talked about a little bit is very helpful is think about the tools that you would want to have. If you are the person making the phone calls, if you're the person, writing letters, sending letters, however you choose to do it in your campaign, if you are asking for help from someone, think about what they need. Try to think about their perspective, and especially with a phone bank or a calling day where they're already a little bit out of their comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to make it easy. And that grace that we talked about too, like them knowing ahead of time that there were going to be mistakes and there were going to be hiccups gave me a little more comfort with what I was doing too. I prepped and I did everything I could and I stayed late and my spreadsheet crashed. And then I tried to reboot it and it crashed again. And when it gets to that, you just have to breathe and let your computer rest overnight and come back.
The nap.
Um, Yeah, because yes, every dollar matters right now, and every dollar that day was matched. But uh, I'm not, coming up with the coronavirus cure here. I'm doing everything that I can to make sure Boone County has the best history and culture center that they have. But I personally am not saving babies or creating a vaccine. Um, so if the contact information isn't perfect, it'll be okay.
Yeah.
And just keep moving forward.
Don't give up. Just keep moving forward.
Yes.
I love it. That is perfect advice. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Mary Ellen. I really appreciate it. I know that there's going to be lots of nonprofits out there who learn a lot from your story and will probably be quite inspired by your success. So, congratulations. And you are one heck of a problem solver. Boone County is lucky to have you.
Thank you. I'm lucky to be here too.
Thank you.
Bye.
So I know, as awesome as all of these free resources and group learning can be, that sometimes you need just a little bit more attention and one-on-one planning help to sit down and figure out just where to start your year-end campaign. I'm offering a limited number of half-price one-on-one consulting sessions. Schedule between September 28th and October 9th, and your one-on-one 1-hour consulting session will be half off. So that's usually $90 and it's marked down to $45. So to sign up for your session, go to consulting.maycreate.com to reserve your spot today. Now, if you are ready to start planning for 2021, join us for the beta session of our nonprofit marketing management fundamentals course as I guide a small group of nonprofits through our signature marketing planning program later this fall. Now, for the beta release, all sessions will be presented live with Q&A sessions afterwards for real feedback. I want to know what you need from me, and I want to answer your questions live in this beta release. So together we'll plan your marketing so you can get back to doing what matters most, growing your mission and making an impact on your community. Join the waitlist now at youmaycreate.com/fundamentals. Once again, that's youmaycreate.com/fundamentals. Together, I know that we can make these last few months of 2020 the best part of this year. And with that, my friends, go forth and market with purpose.